Mayhem Mountain. Written by C.K. Walker. Performed by Jeff Clement. Clearly changing, I couldn't see how long we had. "We get to choose," I said, and explained what I was looking at. "Can you see which track ends where?" Koji asked. I followed each of the tracks as best I could, but the rails circled and slid in between each other. It was hard to tell which track went where. "I think the blue track ends in that big pool in the corner. The red track ends in a wall, and the orange one just drops into a hole in the floor like the one we came down here through, I think." "There's no way out, dude," said Scott from the second car. His voice was unsettlingly calm. "They're just telling us how we're gonna die." "We can still find a way out of this," I answered quietly, speaking more to myself than to him. "Choose the pool," Scott said, and I could hear the tears in his voice. "I've heard drowning isn't an awful death. I've heard it's calming at the end." "No, choose the hole in the floor," said Koji. "It's possible it drops down into another cavern like this. There might be more track, which means more time to figure out how to live." "You don't think we'd be the first to choose that option, do you?" Scott asked him. "And no one that went missing ever came back. There's just more death in that hole." "I don't want to die like this," Koji begged. "And at least it's a chance." Danny was still whimpering in the back and offered no suggestion. It seemed the decision was up to me, and I had to make it fast. I knew I didn't want to die by dropping off the track. I didn't want to drown. Perhaps the quickest death was the wall. More than likely, we would all be killed instantly. Less suffering. Less time to think about our fates. But the truth was, I wasn't entirely positive which track ended where. It was all educated guesswork, and my time was up. "The orange! Let's go down to the second floor, if there is one." Scott and Danny said nothing, and Koji choked out the last words I'd ever hear him say. "Push it, before it chooses for us." Before I could think about it any longer, I pushed the orange button and committed us to whatever death it promised. We heard the metallic scraping of the track transferring below. Once the orange track was securely connected, the brakes on the car released, and the train rolled slowly toward the drop. Danny started screaming again. As we dropped down the hill, I got a better view of the orange track. There was a vertical loop ahead that didn't look as high as the others we'd been through. In fact, it looked like there was a chance the fall wouldn't kill us, if it wasn't an optical illusion, and if the shoulder bars disengaged for that loop, we might have a shot at living through this. I yelled back to everyone behind me. "Let yourself fall out of the loop! The one up there!" No one responded to me, which didn't matter because I didn't think I'd have the courage to let go of the seat anyway. We raced along the track, in and out of banks and curves, and at one point we passed along the pool and I looked down. Below the water's surface, the track ended above an even deeper pool. I could see the shadows of several coaster cars at the very bottom. I suddenly felt the brakes engage, and I realized we were coming to the loop. I tested the shoulder bar by pushing up on it, but it stayed locked. I was momentarily relieved to think I wouldn't have to make the decision to fall out now or gamble on the orange track. But suddenly, the restraints released. As we started up the loop, I gripped the lip of the seat tightly and turned my head back to look down. It looked like we were very high, and I only hoped the ground was the loosely packed dirt that it looked like. I had to choose right then, the fall or the hole. I chose the fall. As I began to slide up the seat, I yelled at the others to let go and fall out of the car, and then I closed my eyes and let go. I felt my head crack the shoulder bar on the way out. It wasn't like a slow motion fall. It was over before I realized that I'd actually let go. One moment, I felt an intense pain as my head hit the bar, and in the same moment, I realized I was on the ground. I hadn't even had the time to realize the possibility of hitting the track below or getting run over by the cars. I opened my eyes in time to watch the cars speed over the track above me. The pain didn't hit me all at once. I had one long, blissful second before I felt it. And then I was in agony. I'd hoped my body would be so in shock that I wouldn't feel much of the pain, but I felt it all. I concentrated on keeping my eyes open and trying to catalog the damage. There was blood on my clothes, but I didn't know from what part of my body it was coming. I heard screaming as well, but I didn't know if it was in my own head or coming from my friends as they approached the gruesome end. I didn't want to move, didn't think it was safe to move, but I knew I had to, if only to pull out my phone. With trembling fingers, I pulled the thing from my pocket and brought it to my face, trying to focus on the screen, but it was shattered and refused to even turn on. I threw it away from me, and suddenly, I became aware of the oppressive silence. Their ride had ended.